So, what are we talking about today, Adam?
We're talking about dealing and coping with change. That is our subject today.
Yep. Change is something I really, really struggle with. Do you struggle with it, do you think, as much as me? Or
I have a different perspective. I do also very struggle, but I also like it as well.
Yeah.
I really get excited by change, but also, as we've discussed previously, the constant battle between trying to keep that excitement of change and still wanting the stability and security.
That's like my whole life. I have these desires to change, to move around, to meet new people, to travel. But I find it so distressing when I don't have a safety net or that sense of security. So it's this constant, I'm just in between the two the whole time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're just constantly trying to balance, and it's just a constant balancing act of your brain. Is like how to change between just feeling okay and just being able to vibe in the moment and wanting something more.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd describe it as.
And how did you find moving from home and school to university to a new city?
This is where I feel like we might differ, because for me, I'm just a naturally independent person. I am family orientated, but I wouldn't say I entirely miss family or like I need them. Obviously I do miss them at times, but I don't feel like I need them to function. I'm sort of always been good at doing my own tasks and getting stuff done in my own time. So I feel like the change has been almost normal, just it felt natural.
Well,
but it's still been difficult.
Perhaps maybe because you've grown up with change as a constant, like your family life has changed since when you were younger, whereas for me, my family life, I've only ever lived in one house. My family has been one unit all the way up until now, whereas that's slightly different for you. So perhaps you've got that resilience now, whereas if you had the same situation as me where you've not had to deal with change really in your past, perhaps university would have been as distressing as it was for me when I started.
There is a point to that, because I was just moving around from my dad's to my mum's basically really all my life. I don't remember the last time I was in one house, do you know what I mean? So I feel like that is a good point, because it feels natural to me just moving into different houses, vibing wherever I go and just packing all my stuff and moving and just sort of being able to float between places. That's sort of been just what I've just done. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
whereas for me, I found it really difficult having certain items of my things in Kent, certain items of my things in Sheffield. It's like, what do I take? I'd constantly, whenever I'd get the train, I'd have a huge amount of things that like my dad would have to help me. So like, I'd just have so many things because I didn't like being insecure without certain things that are required in certain places. And obviously, like when I started university, that first week was probably one of the most distressing weeks of my entire life, because as you know, ADHD, we catastrophize. It's like, oh my god, nothing's going to be the same again. I had to remember to eat. I had to remember to go to the shops. Definitely. I mean, this is what every university student goes to, but I just remember to wash my clothes. And it was at a point, it was like, I literally forgot to eat. And I love food.
No, same.
I love food.
Sometimes I just couldn't be bothered to have tea. I'd just go out and just not have it. Or have it like at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep. I get what you mean, but I feel like, do you know what? I feel like that's more down to the lack of motivation rather than the change. It's just the natural lack of motivation that we have. Right at home, like you don't need to remind to get yourself ready, right? So it's like someone else gives you that motivation. Whereas in uni now, you have to find that yourself and cope with that change of not getting that support from other people, maybe.
Yeah. Like my mum, if I wasn't up for school, my mum would knock on my door. She'd be like, "Oh, get the fuck up." She wouldn't say that. but I don't have that here.
I can't imagine she'd say that.
No, she wouldn't. She might to my cat. If she's in a wee, my cat does. But I think actually someone in the last podcast, they had a comment about changing in organisation and that kind of thing, and how like school was a massive stability. You know, like I've only ever been to one primary school, one secondary school. They were both they both were feeder schools, so a lot of my friends have been constant since nursery until I left school. And then suddenly you're taken away from that safety net. And actually at uni, like, it felt like shit. Like, before it was like, if something ever happened to me and my family, if someone died, or if something catastrophic happened in my life, I'd have these people that have known me for like 15 years around me, like teachers, friends of parents. And it's almost like now you feel this sense like you're alone. Like, people come and go more because it's university, it's more fluid, it's less secure. You don't have to stay at school, you don't have to stay at uni. Well, you have to stay at school, you don't have to stay at university. So I think perhaps it was me catastrophizing, jumping to conclusions as well. Our minds work so fast that for me it was like I jumped to the conclusion of, shit, I'm never going to be the same, it's going to be awful, I'm never going to get as good friends as I had at school, I'm never going to get the same level of security, I'm never going to have the same safety net. But then in reflection, having been at university for my full first year, I've had so many interesting, fun experiences, and probably nearing the end of the year is only when I realise who the people closest to me are, who's been there for me. And actually, you don't replace what you had at school, you don't replace those people, but you get some really cracking good people.
I mean, everyone's different, right? You're never going to replace a friend. The only thing you can replace is almost just replace what that friend did for you, in a way.
Like having someone that you'd normally go to talk to in person, and then losing that, finding that in someone else. But they'll both give different advice, they'll both approach you differently. But I
think the fact that everyone's different is so cool. That's the thing, isn't it? Change, it's so cool, it's so novel, it's so new. Like, coming here, I know your first week was stressful, but for me, my first week was really exciting. There's so many possibilities, I can do anything, like, and I found that so exciting. But then it does hit you, like, actually, oh wait, I've got to sort some stuff out. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, and you're like, it's like you're thrown into the deep end and you don't know what to do. And you're like, oh gosh, right. And then you have to take it a step at a time, right? One thing first, okay, get the shopping. But then it's so hard because you don't know where anything is to shop. You don't know anything is on the shelves. You've been from your hometown where you know where everything is. You've been to the shop a million times and you know where everything is on that store. You know where to get the pasta. But then walking through Waitrose, I know, I don't usually shop at Waitrose anymore, but it was right next to me, so that was my first shop, was at Waitrose.
So many people are going to judge you right now.
No, well, it's very expensive and I don't shop at Waitrose anymore. Shout out. Sponsor us. No, but going through Waitrose, and I was like, where's the pasta? Where's the milk? Where's the bread? Where's the eggs and everything? And I was like, I couldn't focus on it because it was just so different to what I knew.
Talking about supermarkets. Aldi, oh my God. For my ADHD brain, I'm sorry, but
it's so scattered, isn't it?
The lower price of all the food is not worth the amount of stress and anxiety that shop brings me. I used to go there a lot because I was like, I'm a student, cheap food, yay. But I need a shop to go to where I know exactly what is going to be there, exactly where it's going to be. Whereas when I go to Aldi,
it's just different every time.
I'm like, I can't find these things, or this thing isn't here and it should be here, and they've run out of this stuff.
I don't know, because I go with my flatmate, right? To Aldi sometimes. He knows all the sort of tricks of retail and like where they put stuff to get you to buy stuff. So he knows exactly where to look. So literally me going shopping alone is like such a disorientating thing. Like, I'll walk back across the same aisle that I previously walked on because I know I'd have missed something. My flatmate will just be able to point out and see stuff, and I'll be like, whoa, what's going on here? Okay. At the end, I just end up following what he is buying. Just get, like, the veggie option. He just goes, I could do some of this and make some of this, because he's really into his food. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll get that too. Laura, how do you feel about changing in relationships?
So, in terms of romantic relationships, because of how emotionally dysregulated I get, I always try and keep guys at arm's length. Ever since got heartbroken in year 11, I've been like, no, I can't. But then the heartbreak is just the same because you get attached. Yeah. But then you push them away. But I think sometimes, even if it's not the right person for me, I would hold on because the feeling of change feels so much worse than the feeling of security that isn't quite right for you, but it feels worse. It's like, but also when you're with someone, it's that routine of, you message them in the morning, you message them in the evening, you might go to theirs, they might come to yours for company so that you're not alone, because with my ADHD, or this might just be a personality trait, the fear of being alone, the fear of being by myself, I get energy off of other people, As well, like with getting over relationships and change, it's with ADHD, you're one step ahead. You're like, oh, this is so inconvenient. I'm so impatient. I don't want to have to wait however long, however many months, however many years to get over this person. I'm just going to skip all the steps now. So I kind of rationalise in my head like, oh yeah, I'm happy for them. Yeah, like I'm not angry. Like this is great. I try. Sometimes even that kind of euphoric feeling comes into me, which is really weird. It's like, oh, I'm such a great independent person now. See him next minute. I can't cope, screaming, crying, like all these things, and you've like everything's just horrible again. And I've recently had to realise it's okay to be angry, it's okay to shout, and actually you don't have to be one step ahead of your emotions. If you let your emotions with heartbreak come into you and you just feel them, you're like, oh, they're with her. I suppose horrible. And then instead of like lingering on it, instead of being like, oh, this is awful and I'm never going to be the same, just be like, you'll be the same in the next hour. You'll be okay again in the next hour. And it's understanding that through that time, it's not just going to feel like that. It's going to feel like that sometimes, but not all the time, every day. There's always time in the day to laugh and to be distracted. With ADHD, we're brilliant at being distracted. Distract yourselves.
Literally, I can distract myself for hours, but I suppose that fear of rejection, because you have quite a bad fear of rejection, don't you?
Massively.
I suppose that fear of rejection maybe hinders that a bit more. Maybe you feel heartbreak a bit more than other people because that is like rejection. So I feel like that maybe hinders your view on it a little bit.
Yeah, so it's like growing up, and you've probably felt this as well, I was kind of always labelled as the weird kid. I was kind of seen as dumb in primary school. All these things due to my ADHD and dyslexia, and people would think I was weird, I wasn't very sporty, so I was always kind of put in this box of just not being popular. People would laugh at me at times, people would find me annoying. And so coming into adulthood, the moment I find someone who loves me for all of the to that people didn't love me growing up, or didn't like me, or
nice.
I'm like, oh my god, I need this person, I need them, and because they accept me, and what if no one else does?
And it makes you think, like, if this person is so like me, I'm never going to find anyone like me ever again. And we get a lot of narrow vision around relationships where this is who I want to be with. You realise eventually that actually your thoughts were taken by this rush of like, oh my gosh, this person accepts me for something that no one accepted me for, and now you just want more of it. Do you know what I mean? You want more of that acceptance. You want to feel like you belong, but also then the novelty cuts in. You're with them for about 3 or 4 months dating, and then all of a sudden you're starting to get bored.
You're attached to the routine.
Yeah, you're attached to the routine, but then you start to get cut off because of the novelty is wearing off.
Yeah, because then sometimes in relationships I get to a point and I'm like, is this going to be my life now? And it's not because I hate the person, it's just because I'm scared of future. I'm scared of what is my life and all that kind of thing.
And that is change. And that's why it's so hard to deal, because the change from going from single to in a relationship where your routine is completely different, how much more you're going to be with this person to how much more you're not going to be with this person it's like a stark difference. It's like spending time with someone and then not spending time with someone. Obviously you've got set things that you'll do together. As when you no longer have that, you feel like you have more free time, and then sometimes use that free time to go do stuff that you like, that you just like, right? And then it's like, and then that makes you feel good, and then you're like, oh, but I don't want this to change. I don't want someone to restrict my routine and everything like this. And then you start questioning yourself, and then you start going, oh, but is this really what I want to do? Am I ready for this? Stuff like that.
Yeah, because also with routine and change, it's if you and a person part ways, then it's like you're parting ways from their family, from their friends, from socialising in the same group of people as them, and all these changes, and then that provokes anxiety.
Yeah.
I just want to ask, how did you cope or find lockdown?
Lockdown for me wasn't too bad. I didn't mind it because at that point I was like glad to be in, glad to take a break, because everything was just so stressful. For me at this time, I was just going through a lot, like mentally. I was in a heavy like state of depression, especially around like sixth form time, where all I wanted to do was just stay in. Like I just wanted to stay in and just fucking play the fucking Xbox or something. Do you know what I mean? Like I couldn't be asked to do anything else. I couldn't be asked to go out, meet my mates, do anything. And lockdown for me, it was like almost a blessing. In a selfish way, it was like now no one gets to do the stuff that I was not doing because I was just not wanting to do that. As soon as it lifted, I felt like that change of the stark difference of doing nothing to like being able to do whatever you want. Then I just went absolutely crazy and just started doing like just everything, just like going out all the time, and just like as soon as it lifted, like, well, I've got to make the most of it now. That change in the lockdown from non-lockdown in a way motivated me, because I'm like, this is how bad it could be. That being taken away kind of made me think, shit, I need to make the most of stuff. Do you know what I mean?
So you think the change of lockdown actually helped you?
Yeah, I do, because it gave me the time where I could just stay in and be like, I just need to get my energy up or get better here. And obviously it wasn't good because I was just in a state of just being locked in, and it was difficult because being in such a small house, enclosed area, because my mum's house is quite small and I had to stay there a lot because my dad was at risk. Being in such a small house was hard because obviously you're in a close proximity, and then family, you know, and how they interact, and it can get a bit fighty or a bit shouty, especially in such a small house. It's quite overwhelming. I think that is one of the things I struggled with the most, is how overwhelming the small space was. We have quite a small house. It's a 2-bedroom house, my mum's house. My dad's one's bigger, but my mum's house is a 2-bedroom house, and she has like a sofa bed downstairs. So it's all very quite proximity. You know, if I go down for breakfast, I have to see her or wake her up or something like that, and we're all waking up at different times.
Does she always sleep downstairs?
Yeah, but
even if you're not there?
Well, no. Well, since I'm not there, she's moved up to my room. In a way, this is why I felt like moving out was just the right thing to do, because it was like the house is just so small, it's so intense, just with me, my sister, and my mum there who live in that house, and it was like lockdown was overwhelming in that sense. In a sense of not being able to go out, I felt like it kind of made me realise and appreciate like how fickle, you know, society can be, and how like quickly it can just go like that. Do you know what I mean? I did struggle with the change of having to be cooped in and the overwhelming of that, because obviously I turned 18 late in the year as well, so I couldn't even really go out drinking that much, and no one could. So I was sort of just being like, oh well, I can't do anything anyway. And then I was like, actually, I kind of want it to be lifted now, because I kind of want to go out. And then I did. Fortunately, I got to go to Leeds Fest, which I was so happy with that it got lifted, and we were able to do that, which was amazing. I feel like lockdown was difficult for not like seeing people, but I did not want to see people at all at that time. So I mean, I was already depressed, so lockdown, you know, tried its worst, but fuck, I was already going through a lot. So
okay, well, for anyone who enjoyed lockdown like Adam, nice. Me on the other hand, that was one of the worst periods ever. I absolutely hated it. And going back to change, I could not stand how the government kept changing the rules so much, or changing the freedom date, because to me, if you give me that date, I can look towards something, I can prepare, I can do certain things during this period of time. Then, when you don't let me out on that date, I'm like, hang on a minute. Everything changes. What am I going to do now? I'm going to need to plan this. I'm going to need to plan this. Everything's going to change. What am I going to do? And I remember in my year, if anyone got COVID, a whole year would have to go home. So I remember there was rumours, and then there was a tannoy announcement all year 13s must go home. And I was in my art class, and I just remember I started crying, bawling my eyes out, I can't do it again. I can't be put in a box. I can't be in a room. It makes me feel so low. I absolutely hate it. I can't do it. And that was all my kind of emotional dysregulation. And I felt so touched by the teacher, Miss King, Art Miss King. I love that woman, who was with me and was like, yeah, I understand. I feel your pain, because I don't think people quite understood just how difficult it was for me and why. And I've got a friend who's also neurodivergent. She's autistic, and she really struggled with it as well. She got really low mood through it. It just made everything so much more heightened, and being around family for that length of time, it was really difficult. And what got me through it was the routine of having online dance lessons most days. And my dance teacher, Georgia, was so kind to do dance lessons for £1, which meant that me and over 100 other people, I can't remember how many was in the dance group, but loads and loads of other people were able to continue to have a routine, continue to have something to work towards. If I didn't have that dance, I would have absolutely crumbled. I mean, I did absolutely crumble. It was awful. And I just, my need, because I'm such an extrovert, I needed to be around people to have energy. The videos of myself that I look back up from lockdown, when I used to record myself doing singing and stuff, my eyes were so puffy in all these videos because I was just constantly crying and constantly feeling alone and lost, and I just needed some clarity. And in terms of exams, I struggled so much with not knowing, are we doing exams? Are we not doing exams?
That was difficult.
Yeah, for me, I kept saying, it's how can I run a race and not know if it's a marathon or a sprint? How can I prepare? What if I'm to prepare for a sprint, which is doing lots of tests that they all mean something? How is that fair that I've prepared for a sprint and then suddenly you tell me it's a marathon, or I've done it a slow burning way, I'm gonna cram all at the end because that works for some people, and then they tell me, oh no, we're not doing that, your past test was the one that counts. It was so unfair, and I absolutely hated everything about lockdown. And I remember if I had to go into another lockdown, I would be so emotionally dysregulated. I don't know what I would do. I would be absolutely distraught.
Yeah. See, I've got a few things to touch on there that you talked about, because for me, I feel like you were looking for a motivation. For me, I feel like for the exams, I sort of just took the stance of I actually don't care what I get anymore. I just been through a lot, and it was just it was just so long. The year was just so long, and the years were just so long. It became a sort of thing where it's the only reason I need these is to get a certain letter so I can go to uni. And that's what I just kept thinking was, these are just an entry pass. I suffered, my motivation really suffered from that, because I was the way they changed them and they U-turned them from getting these grades to that grades, it just sort of made me think that they don't matter anymore. And in a way I just was oh, whatever will be, you know. And I know probably nobody else took that stance, but I just didn't care at this point about it, because I was they're changing it so much. In my emotional deregulation there was cutting off completely. And then I started to get maybe a bit of imposter syndrome. It's should I even be here? That could have been
depression kicking in.
Yeah.
You know, because with I don't know, you might know better than me. It's a numbness. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't really feel really anything. Yeah. It's there's a cavity in your head and you just can't feel it. Right, so there's a numbness. I don't really care about what I get because I just don't feel anything. If I get a B, C, C, cool. If I get 3 Bs or A, B, B or 3 As, great. But it's literally just a letter on a piece of paper. It's just a letter on a piece of paper. And that's just always what I told myself. I just didn't care. I'd gone through education so much, and I'd not liked barely anything of education. There's only ever 2 or 3 bits of education that I ever liked, and that was English A-level, history GCSE, and this right now, what I'm doing in uni. And that they're the only 3 bits of education that I ever liked, like truly like was interested in and wanted to like pursue in the future. Thankfully, I was doing one of them in sixth form, right? I was doing English A-level, thankfully. So I had a little motivation from that because it was high dopamine, because it was high interest, right? But for me, the only link to me getting good grades, I didn't even care about the grades. I just cared about what university that would get me into, because I was plotting my next step already.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm already so fucking like depressed, and I just can't be arsed with college anymore. Like, I had the worst time. Cool, like I've met some mates, I met some cool people, you know, and everything, but I just wanted it to be over. I wanted to move to the next step of my life. I was already ready to like be like an adult or be a young adult and sort of gain independence and everything. That it's just like I wasn't bothered. I just wanted to pass, and I knew that universities wouldn't be bothered because they'd be accepting everyone because they're a business now, and also it's like the more people you get, the better. But also like I just wanted to get into the top one. I wanted to get into Uni of Sheffield. Oh, sorry, bit of a traitor, but I'm not smart enough. I just wanted to touch on like the changing in groups, sort of like how you adapt to different groups. Because I know we've talked about lockdown and not being able to go to the groups, but how do you adapt when you go to a certain different group of people?
I find that hard. As I said in the last podcast, I find it difficult adapting to new people. You know, I grew up, I've got a certain sense of humour with the people I grew up with. I've got certain social norms, certain background. Like, you know, if I was to talk to you about my teachers, you'd have no idea what I was talking about. If I was to talk to you about Maidstone, you'd have no idea about that kind of banter and things. So I think changing friendship dynamics, changing who your close friends are, changing who you hang out with a lot is something that is quite difficult for me.
Yeah.
I had to write a list once of my friends, and I had to kind of work with like prioritising, and I just wrote down all the people in my life, and I had to kind of highlight the ones that I class as my priority. Doesn't mean the ones that aren't my priority I don't care about, but it means these people deserve my time more because they've given me their time.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. It's just organisation in all kinds of life, all areas of my life, including friendships and relationships.
I feel like as well, the constant theme here that I've just recognised is that lack of clarity, lack of security, lack of whatever it be, lack of end in sight is really intense for us and like really distressing for us, because in a way the ends being in sight and like knowing what you're going to do, because for me it was like coming here, right? For you it was like what grades you get, like you cared like really about like how you would finish college, right? But I feel like that lack of knowing where you're going to go is what is really distressing in change for us. Because it's like you imagine a situation, right, in your head, and then the situation starts to become really different. The picture changes, right? You're imagining one life, and you're down a road. That road's blocked off now, so you've got to take a slightly different road, so you've got to take it from a slightly different angle, right? And then you're driving in this way, and now the picture's looking different, and it's looking more and more different every single little turn you take, and you have to take the little turns because that's just life. And what you imagined actually at the end of that road is completely different to how that picture was looking at the start, and it's sad. It's difficult.
It is sad, but
it's life.
It's also happy, because I think actually in concluding this podcast, I think my advice to any ADHDers out there listening, any neurodivergent people, anyone who just struggles with change in general, whoever you are. When I started university this year, I felt very lost. I felt like it was all going to be this huge disaster. I felt sad. I felt no security. I didn't feel a sense of belonging. Now, having finished my first year, I have found so many interesting, lovely people. I've found course mates who I'm moving in with. I'm moving into a renovated church. Like, that's so cool. There's like stained glass windows everywhere. I did well on my degree despite not having the energy and that drive sometimes because I felt so lost and alone. I started university attached to one boy, and I'm leaving this year attached to a different one. Like, you just don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. And I think whatever you're going through, if you're worried about change, if you're worried about what's going to happen, I'd say stick at it. Do not give up, whether it's university, whether it's moving somewhere new, whether it's a new job, whether it's wanting to give up because you're heartbroken. It's going to be fine. It is going to be okay. I struggle with change so much. If I can do it, if I can carry on going despite all of the emotional dysregulation, all of the times my friends have had to calm me down in situations because I'm catastrophizing, you can absolutely do it too, and we can all do it together. And just I'd say this as well, give yourself a date. Like for me in dealing with something in a minute, I wrote on my wall, right, by the 1st of July, which was a month later, I'm going to feel better about the situation I'm going through right now.
Do you know what you need? I feel like that, in a sense, is like you needing to have a goal to set for yourself that can make that sort of vision almost partially come true, at least.
Manifesting, isn't it?
Yeah, manifesting, but also like that goal can't be too big, is what I've realised. You can't set that so high for yourself. You can't set that expectation so high for yourself. When you're dating or whatever you're doing, or when you're doing some work, if you set an expectation too far for yourself, you will always fail, because you always will. But I feel like also big expectations are good, but you need to moderate them.
Yeah.
Stuff that pushes you but doesn't tear you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Or just inevitable things. So, like, for example, if you're really struggling starting university, instead of saying, right, by the end of 2 weeks, I need to feel a sense of belonging. No, by the end of 2 weeks, I need to have joined a society, given it a go, and I need to have done one piece of artwork or whatever course you're doing. And then you can think, okay, I'm getting the foundations here. But what I found really interesting about this particular podcast is ADHD obviously affects people differently depending on their upbringing, depending on their lives. Like, for example, perhaps your life, Adam, your circumstances and the changes that you've had to deal with growing up, the changes with your family, the changes with having to adapt have made you more resilient. Whereas for me, I've been luckier in that I haven't had to adapt to many changes in my life. So smaller changes do affect me.
Yeah.
Coming to university, having to make a sense of home in a different house to the one that I grew up in, having to just that adaptation. I think you, as someone with ADHD who has had to adapt, have got used to it, and you probably went through the struggle of adaptation earlier in life, whereas for me the struggle of adaptation is coming now, and I'm learning. And because I'm an adult and I've got emotional dysregulation, perhaps some people think I'm immature when I'm like, oh my god, I can't do it, I just need this. Yeah, but another thing is
but
friends.
I do struggle.
Yeah.
I think that's what you automatically assumed, is because I'm more resilient. I don't, but I will struggle in other ways that you don't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I struggle with making more long-term, closer connections to people. You know, you probably have had more of that, the way you feel like one person is your life. Do you know what I mean? And you have to hold on to them, and you have to be really loyal to them.
Yeah.
And I just don't get that need for doing that. Do you know what I mean? Because I've never had to always be at my parents' house at this time or that time, or they're not really bothered. They'd be like, yeah, just go off, just call us when you're back, sort of thing. And it's like, I've never needed to, in the way that you have been, I've never needed to do that. So I have less experience in doing that. You may have less experience in just like a social whatever, where you feel like your anxiety is taking a hold of you, whereas I feel I'm quite comfortable around people, but maybe I just still feel like we're similar, and on my own I still get very anxious like you do. But I feel like that sort of, you not being able to feel like you belong in the moment, the way we've been differently raised, but I feel like you can stay there with someone and be like, I'm okay actually right now, whereas for me that is very difficult to be like, actually I'm okay just chilling here with you. The way we've been nurtured, and the way our brains have been treated, and what is right and what is wrong, or what has been said right, or what is normal or what is abnormal, affects the way we deal with change. Because like for me, that's not change. For me, change is just being able to sit there with someone, and in a way that's sort of just what I want to do now.
Well, what I think I've learned from this podcast, and what other people I hope have learned by both our inputs, is ADHD isn't black and white. It's Adam likes, you probably like change and can deal with change more than I can.
Yeah.
But I think ADHD for me is this constant wanting change.
Yeah. But wanting security.
At the same time. Wanting to be a certain way, but can't do it because I want the security. You
see, I want to always be in this massive, big event happening, but also I want that person to take me aside and be like, oh yeah.
And it makes me do a lot of things that self-sabotage myself. It makes me push people away because I'm like, I want to be like this. I want to be this person that does that gets with everyone. I want to be this person that tries all these different societies. I want to be this person that does everything. But in reality, it's like if I found a sense of security somewhere, I then get very attached to that.
Yeah.
And then when that goes, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Then you get emotionally deregulation because in fact that security, you had it and then now you've lost it.
And then it's like it's your fault.
And now you've been thrown into a frenzy and now you need to get it back, or you need to get it back
but what
some
I'll
way.
say is what I have learned, especially this year, in the moments I felt most lost and like nothing is going to change and like there's nothing around me that can help me, those are some of the moments where the best outcomes have come, the best things have happened. So stick with it, keep going. You are strong.
Literally keep going.
Yeah. Something
will happen and it will be the thing you least expect to happen.
Yeah.
And it will be the best thing that's happened. The best nights are the unexpected ones, is what they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they are, because honestly, you will find stuff in the fact if you stick with change and you can just power through. And I know it's hard sometimes because you're like, why the fuck am I here? Like, what is even the point of trying this new thing? If you stick with it, you will end up finding something that you really adore.
And it won't be the thing you thought you would find. It'll be something else, but it'll be amazing. It'll be magical.
The picture will change, but that's the beauty of it.
And us people with ADHD, although we can sometimes be hard on ourselves and think, oh, you're stupid, you're this, you're that, so many people look up to you, so many people look up to your confidence, so many people
are like you and they won't be brave enough to admit it. And in fact I've seen many times where people aren't dealing with stuff well but they're trying to hide it. Don't be that person.
Be us and create a podcast, but don't beat our podcast.
Yeah,
our podcast
don't overtake our podcast. You will never.
No. Anything that works, anything therapeutic. But yeah, we are now going to an exercise class.
Yes,
we're
going
to get rid of
spin
some
class.
energy because
Class.
Sometimes when class. Talking of class, I'm very upper class. Thank you so much for listening. Please give us feedback, ask us questions, and we'll hopefully answer some of those for you in the next.
As we have done.
Yeah. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and have a good day.
Yes.
We're after our spin class. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.